Hi, my name is Krystle Rogers, Certified Life and Business Coach. I'm certified through the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, and have been since 2018. I've been consulting under Martin Perry Consulting and Training since 2017. As a corporate and nonprofit and government employee for the last over 20 years, my expertise has really been in learning and organizational development. In 2018, I decided to take a leap of faith in myself and really explore what's possible with my natural skills and develop them into a certification in coaching. With corporate and organizational businesses, I do training, I do learning organizational development consulting, and with businesses, especially new entrepreneurs, I like to explore what's possible for growth. For people who are looking for new ventures and life purpose, maybe bucket list, I serve as their life coach. So I am a partner in what's possible, and we can explore that together. Hi, I'm Krystle Rogers from Kinetic Coaching. Welcome to your Accelerated Transformation with the M.A.R.C.H Workbook. So today we're going to cover all of the elements of M.A.R.C.H, starting with why it's so important that you establish your values, why you need to design your well-crafted vision so we know where we're even going. Then we're going to go through all of the components of M.A.R.C.H, starting with M, make aligned decisions, then moving on to A, awareness of self. We're going to arrive at R for reflection. Then we're going to talk about crafting your SMART goals. That is going to be committing to a course of action. Then we're going to talk about highlighting the wins and failures, or like I like to call them, your lessons learned. And then finally, we're going to get into the bonus H, which is having honest soft talk with yourself. So we're going to go through all of the components of M.A.R.C.H. Have no fear. I'm with you every step of the way. All right, so let's get into it. In your workbook, you're going to get an introduction of me, Krystle Rogers. And you're going to learn a little bit about my background and the coaching certification that I have, where I come from, my learning and organizational development background. So take some time to get yourself acquainted with me, your coach. Next, you're going to get into the instructions for the workbook. I'm going to explain to you, if you want to read through everything, the end user tips, the links that you'll be using as a resource for establishing your values. You're also going to see some places where you can click to schedule a call with me if you'd like to. If you want a more engaged experience, you're welcome to sign up as a coaching client if you are not already. For those of you who are my coaching clients, this workbook is going to be your partner in what's possible. So every time we meet, I'm going to ask you, did you M.A.R.C.H? If you did, that means that you went through the M.A.R.C. and the H's. So you're going to complete a survey after every session before your next session. Doesn't matter if you do it immediately after your session with me or right before your next session. I do just want to hear from you what went through your mind in between those sessions that we had in relation to the M, A, R, C, and H. On the bottom of the instructions page, you're going to see some reminders from me, your coach. Things looking like, comfort is the death to progress. So I want you to be reminded of that whenever you feel like, okay, I'm getting a little comfortable going back into my old ways, because remember, this is an accelerated transformation process, meaning I'm going to need you to stick to what you said you wanted to do. And if you're feeling like you want to pivot, that is fine. We're just going to talk about it and tweak our goals a little bit, or establish new goals, or discard old goals if you feel like you don't really want to do that anymore. You're allowed to change your mind, but what we want to make sure we're doing is not just moving, but also making progress. So remember, movement can feel like progress, but as your coach, I'm going to be watching closely to make sure that progress is actually happening. In your workbook, you're going to be reminded about the reasons that coaching works. So if you are a self-motivated person, you may have purchased this workbook and not coaching services, which is totally fine. So if that is you, just know that you're going to be kind of your own coach here. You're going to be self-facilitating yourself through using this workbook. But the reason that this works is that you're going to be held accountable. So if you are a self-motivated person, that means that you're going to go through creating your strategy. You're going to look at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats with the SWOT analysis at the end of the workbook. You're going to be referring back to your personal mantra, your vision, your values, and all of the goals that you have set to remind yourself to stay accountable. If you are a coaching client, that's going to be me. I'm going to be your partner in what's possible in that way, holding you accountable. I'm also going to be providing clarity for you, but it's going to look a little different than you may be used to. I don't have the answers, you do. So with my provoking questions or provocative questions, I'm going to be digging deep into what it is that you already know, but you just may not have been aware of, or it's not at the surface. So I'm going to give you that dedicated time to focus on you, ask you questions to make you think deeply, come up with the answers that we will take action on. I'm also going to give you some feedback and perspective when it is asked of me, or I may ask your permission to give you some feedback as your coach. If you are self-facilitating this, this workbook, that's totally fine, but lean on your resources. Ask for feedback. Maybe ask your spouse or a peer at work, or even your manager, your parents, even your children. Ask them for feedback. And the way to do that, if you are facilitating this yourself, is to ask them, what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? And what should I continue doing? So that's really easy. Start, stop, continue. If you don't like the start, stop, continue way, there's an alternative. You can do what I call the win model. So ask someone, what am I doing really well? And then ask somebody, what should I improve? And then ask them, what should I do next time? And that way you'll get really good information and feedback. If I'm your coach, I may ask you permission to maybe call out a pattern that I'm noticing. If I do that, you're okay. It's okay if you tell me, no, I don't really want that. But if you do want feedback, I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to give it to you straight. As your coach, I'm also going to give you support and encouragement. So although I'm not a mentor, so I may not be the expert in whatever it is that you are aspiring to be, but I am going to give you support and encouragement and possibly resources to help you get further faster. That's the whole point. This is going to be a personalized approach. Every situation is different. So whatever is unique to you, I'm going to be keenly listening for that, be a reminder of it for you, or bring it to the forefront, make sure that it's being highlighted, and make sure that whatever it is that we need to do to customize this experience for you, that happens. When we're talking about your values, it's going to be really important that you know exactly what they are. So in the workbook, you're going to be clicking on the link that's provided. Since it's digital, all you need to do is hover your cursor over the link and click it, and the page will open. You're going to go through the website, follow the steps to establish your 5 top goals. Now, I know it's going to be really difficult. So if you see something that, it's like it didn't show up in your results, but it's really important to you, add that to the bonus section. Now is going to be a really good time for you to navigate to that website, complete the exercise, come back to your workbook, and complete the workbook with your 5 top values and any bonus values that you feel are really important to include. Questions to consider when thinking about being ambitious, if you struggle there, are what would ideal look for me? Or if there were no limitations to what I could do, what would I be doing? Or if time weren't a factor, or if money weren't a factor? Because we're going to take care of all of those impediments with our carefully crafted goals that we're going to create. Because once we establish that ambitious vision, we can close the gap between where you are and where you want to be with really carefully crafted goals. Another tip is, if you're struggling with that vision, think about, what do people naturally come to you for that they could go to anyone else in the world for, but they come to you? If you're thinking about, what am I good at? Or what should I be aspiring to be? Think about that question. Also think about, what do the people who love me the most want for me? When I say to my clients to think about themselves in the third person, one of the things I challenge them to do is think about themselves in the eyes of their parent that loved them the most, or their grandparent that loves them the most, their spouse that loves them the most, and what do they want for you? When you think about yourself through the lens of someone who loves you the most, it's easier to see what might be possible for you that you actually don't even see for yourself. And we'll work on that in coaching. So you know what's important to you and you've established your values. Great job. So now we're going to move on to establishing your vision and what is important to you, married with what you see yourself as in the future, is going to be key to this journey. Your vision is where you see yourself in the future. And that could be in relation to your job, that can be in relation to a new business venture, or even just simply a new milestone in your life. Maybe you're turning a new decade, 50. Maybe you are an empty nester now. So what does that transition look like for you? That's why establishing a vision is so key, because if we don't know where we're going, then you're going to be creating goals for yourself that lead to nowhere. That's where we see movement without progress. That's where we see people crafting these goals and reaching these milestones and feeling like they haven't done anything with their life even after they've established and achieved all of these goals. So we want to make sure that we are making progress forward and reaching the vision that you've established. So now would be a really good time to open up your workbook to where you can start to design your vision. Write a draft first as a tip, and then come back to it and create the final draft of your vision. When thinking about your vision, think about what is ideal. We want you to be really ambitious, but we want you to be realistic. So think as though you're thinking about yourself in 5 to 10 years. What would be ideal for you? Whether that's in relation to your career or your new business venture or your family or your friendship, your network. What does that look like in 5 to 10 years? Now would be a really good time for you to open your workbook and draft your first vision statement. Then I want you to come back and finalize that draft and make sure that it is short and sweet, concise, and brief. We don't want a paragraph here. We want at the most 2 sentences, ideally 1, that states who you are in the ideal state in regards to your life, your career, or your business. All right, so now we've got what's important to you, which is your values. We've established your vision and where we want to be. Now we're going to work through the mindset shift that it's going to take to get you there, especially at an accelerated rate. We're going to start with M. The M in M.A.R.C.H stands for making aligned decisions. But first I want to talk about the verb to make. When I think about success, success is not something that just plops in your lap. It may seem that some people are just lucky and they're successful because they were in the right place at the right time. But the truth is, it takes determination, it takes intention, it takes discipline, and it takes consistency. Remember what the verb to march means. It means walking consistently among other people for a significant cause. And right now, we're marching for you. So the M in make, align, and march stands for making aligned decisions. And we are going to be making the decisions to succeed versus making the decisions to fail. When you are making the decision to succeed, that means that your decisions that you make day to day are aligned with your values and what's important to you and your vision where you are going. If you, for example, to make it simple, have decided that you're going to lose 10 pounds by September 1st, that means that you are not making the decision to succeed when you eat pizza or eat a burger every day and you exceed the allowed calories that you've established for yourself. If you're doing that, you're actually making the decision to fail. So we're going to make the decision to succeed by making sure the decisions that we make every day align with the goals that we've set for ourselves. We also need to understand the difference between decisions and choices. Choices are the options that we have in front of us. So that means, with my example I created earlier, with if you want to lose 10 pounds by September 1st, you're going to have the option to eat maybe a salad with lower calories or pizza with higher calories and carbs, right? To make it really simple. If you choose salad, now you're eating it, you're enjoying it, but you're also deciding, do I like this or not? You're deciding, was this aligned or not? So as you're deciding, it allows you and empowers you to the next time, make the choice that is more aligned. Perhaps you're eating the salad and you're really enjoying it and you like that it's making the decision to succeed. Or perhaps you're eating the salad and you decide, this ain't for me. Like, I don't think I want to do this for real. And that's okay. And unless there's some sort of issue going on with your health or real reason that you need to lose 10 pounds by September 1st, then maybe you can decide to pivot from that and say, this actually isn't important to me. But that's why you're going to refer back to your values. If health and wellness and being fit and having 5% body fat is what's important to you, then that's where we need to stay. We need to stay within the restrictions that you design for yourself. While we are here talking about making aligned decisions, what's going to be critical is your mindset. So, are you talking to yourself by the way that you think or act in a negative way or in a positive way? So I'm going to challenge you to start shifting the way you think from an I can't attitude to I can attitude. Again, I'm your partner in what's possible. So we're going to stick to what's positive versus what's negative. In your workbook, you're going to find some negative self-beliefs and positive self-beliefs. So I want you to lean into what's positive and stay away from what's negative for this. Now would be a really good time for you to open your workbook and start to document some of the decisions that you've made lately. Are they aligned or are they not aligned? And what choices have you made? Can you decide whether or not they are aligned with your success or are they aligned with your failure? Next is A. So A is having awareness for yourself. How much do you actually know yourself? If you want to learn something, ask your spouse or ask your children about yourself. Ask them, how would they describe your personality? Or someone that you work with. Ask them, what do you do really well? Or what could you probably use some support with? So that's what you're going to do to understand who you are, how you learn, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Because we're really good at this with people we're close with, like our children, our spouses, our peers at work, but we're not so good, not as good as we think we are with ourselves. So we're going to take this time to really focus on how we learn. And we're also going to focus on what allows us to succeed, but also what causes us to fail. At this time, it would be great for you to open your workbook and start jotting down some things that you've learned about yourself lately. I'm going to ask you to refer back to these things often so that you can be reminded of who you are, because we want to respect that person. We don't want to act like you're someone else because you are not that person. If you're not able to run 10 miles in an hour, then we're not going to ask you to do that. That would be ridiculous. You're going to fail. So it's really important to know where you are so we can meet you where you're at, and then we can grow from there and establish goals that are aligned with your current abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Next is R. R stands for reflection. Have you ever had a disagreement with someone and wondered, do they ever reflect? Like, how could they ever think that what they said to me was right? Or how could they ever think that the outcome was okay? That's reflection. But we are really quick to ask someone else to reflect, but kind of neglect that for ourselves. So in this process, we are going to be challenging ourselves to reflect often. When you think about a reflection, it's literally the reflection you see when you look in a mirror. Ask yourself, is what you see who you intend to be? If what you see as you reflect on your actions recently do not align with the vision that you've set for yourself or the goals that you've crafted for yourself, then we have some work to do. If it does align, then great, you are on track. But we need to close the gap between where we are and where we want to be, and the key is reflection. Think about this. The example I gave earlier about being healthy and making the right choices with your eating habits comes here. When you're looking in the mirror, figuratively, thinking about, what have I eaten the last week? Okay, so maybe some French fries, some pizza here and there, went out to eat and had a burger. Are you seeing in that reflection what aligns with your vision, which is you 10 pounds lighter? If the answer is no, then we need to adjust for next week and make sure that going forward, we have better awareness of ourselves and our environments. Perhaps you need to be better prepared for when you go to the office potluck. Maybe you need to eat before you go so that you don't overindulge. You need to use those reflections and what you've learned going forward so that you can get closer to your goals in an accelerated pace. Here in the workbook, I do talk about some resources and activities that you can do to support yourself, especially if you are self-facilitating your way through this workbook. Sometimes it's really important to get peer feedback, and a really good way to do that is to create a network of friends and a group setting where you all can tell each other your goals and aspirations and hold each other accountable. So if you are not the one that does well with one-on-one coaching or group coaching that's facilitated by a professional coach. Take advantage of what you already have. You have a network of friends, you have peers at work. Maybe you could be the one to get everyone together and say, hey, let's all put our goals on the table. Let's all hold each other accountable to them. How are we going to do this? Maybe it's a group chat. Maybe you meet on Zoom once a month. Whatever it is, do what works for you after learning who you are and paying attention to and respecting that person. Now would be a great time to open your workbook to the part where you can jot down answers to some reflection questions that I've provided. Now would be a great time for you to start creating your SMART goals. Make sure that they are in SMART format. That is, they are specific, they are measurable, they are achievable, they are relevant, and they are time sensitive. So let's talk about that a little bit more. When I say they're specific, that is the difference between I want to lose some weight and I want to lose 10 pounds by September 1st. That is specific. What is measurable? Measurable means you are identifying the measurement. I want to lose weight versus I want to lose 10 pounds. Achievable just means it's realistic. Is this something that you can actually do in the time frame that you've given yourself? For instance, I love Sha'Carri Richardson. Everybody was watching the Olympics. Do I think that I can run a 100-meter in under 10 seconds? Absolutely not. That's not realistic for me. It's not achievable for me. I'm not going to do that in a year. I'm probably not going to do that in 2 years because I know myself. I'm aware of myself, right? I know what I want. I don't really want that. Would it be nice to be recognized as an Olympic star? Absolutely. It's just not something that I want and it's not in my future. So I'm being realistic. That's just the reality of it. And it's not achievable for me because I'm not in the shape and I'm not going to invest in the resources needed to train in order for that to be achievable for me. Also, is it relevant? So when you're at work working and your manager gives you your goals, it's not going to be, Krystle, I'm really interested in making sure that we have popcorn in the lunchroom every Wednesday by the end of the month. Well, that's not relevant to my role. That's not in my job description. Unless I've signed up for the fund committee or something like that, it's just not making sense. So just make sure that your goals are aligned with your vision and your values. That is what makes it relevant. And then time sensitive. It's really dangerous when we craft goals that don't have a timestamp on them or a due date. If you're not telling yourself when you need to have this goal done by, then that makes it really difficult to hit a target. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive. Now it's time to get to SMART goals. What's really interesting is that as individuals, we don't really see what happens, especially at work, when upper management and the C-suite has done all of the work we just talked about from A through R before they give us the goals we need to work on to support the company. So I like to use that analogy because most people are kind of boots on the ground or mid-level managers who get the goals from the executives to work to support the goals of the organization, not realizing that they have been in all of these meetings and retreats and figured out the strategies, and they are aware of what the company needs. They've reflected on the previous year. They've looked at the budgets and the costs. They've, made decisions that align to the company's values and the vision and the mission, and then you get the goals. We don't do that for ourselves as individuals, but now it's time to. So as an individual, I challenge my clients and you to go through M.A.R. before you get to C, which is when we are going to start to craft your SMART goals. So now I want to dismantle a myth. A myth is comparison is the thief of joy. I don't subscribe to that. I really do believe that the only way to know where you're at versus where you want to be is to compare. So think of someone that you know who is doing the thing that you want to do, whether that's in your life, your career, or business ventures, and compare yourself to them. Where are you versus where they are? And I'm not saying that you can't surpass them, but at least you need to compare yourself to someone who's already successful. And if you can't surround yourself with successful people doing the things that you want to do, you at least need to identify someone out there in the world who's doing that and do your research. What are they doing? What did it take to get there? And compare yourself. And then you need to start to model that. And of course, add a little sprinkle of whoever it is that you are naturally so that you can make it your own. But you definitely do need to compare, but don't let it steal your joy. Instead, we're going to let it motivate you. We're going to get you there, and then we're going to surpass them. Moving on to H. H is highlighting your wins and your failures. We're going to talk about what did you do really well. So as your coach, if you're not hearing what's going really well, I'm going to remind you of that as you talk. Also, your failures. We want to make sure that what you're doing wrong is highlighted so we don't continue to do it in a wrong way. We're going to make sure that you don't sulk or live in that space of I failed. We're just going to recognize it, become aware of it, and we're going to move on. And lastly, honest self-talk. So the bonus H is super critical because we need to be honest with ourselves. I don't care if you're honest with yourself in the bathroom, in the mirror when looking at yourself. I don't care if you're honest with yourself with your coach or your best friend. Someone needs to know, whether that's you or me as your professional coach or a close family or friend, it doesn't matter. Someone needs to know, especially you, what you can be honest about in relation to your goals and why you failed or why you're succeeding. If you're not being honest with yourself, that means that you are not going to hit your goals, unfortunately. To make it simple again, with my example with the diet and exercise, if my goal is to lose 10 pounds by September 1st, but when I'm alone, I'm eating a whole pizza by myself, I'm acting like it didn't happen, but it definitely did. And you know who's going to tell me? The scale. The scale is going to tell me that I ate the whole pizza by myself when I was alone. So unless I'm being honest with myself about my eating habits and changing them, change is not going to happen and I'm not going to hit my target. Now is a great time for you to refer to the honest self-talk part of the workbook and take a look at the reflection questions and answer them honestly. By the end of the workbook, you should have completed all the exercises, and now we can develop your personal and or professional strategy. So if you are attacking, let's say, a new career, then we're going to take a look at your vision statement for that new career, your personal mantra that'll keep you on track. You're going to identify 1 to 3 SMART goals to stick to. You're going to identify your values, and also what will you do to cope when you fail, when you don't do so well. You're not going to give up, that's for sure. But what will you do to cope with the feelings that come with failure so that you can pick up and keep going? At the end of the workbook, you're going to find the quick reference guide. This is something that you can refer to often once you get used to and in the habit of going through March. If you just need a reminder and you want to give yourself that focused time that you, generally speaking, probably don't do, you can take a look at the quick reference guide and go through M.A.R.C.H. And you can ask yourself those provocative questions that really pull out what it is that you are looking for that's going to get you to your destination, your goals. The heavy lifting here is going to be the mindset shift. We really need you to prioritize marching. I want you to march for yourself, and then eventually you can share this with your friends. Go to work and talk to them about March. And collectively, you can begin to make aligned decisions, have awareness of the projects and initiatives that you have, what's going on within the organization that impacts your projects and initiatives. In your business, are you aware of your business or your client and your target market and your ideal customer? Are you aware of all the things that matter so that you can achieve the goals with yourself, your business, your organization, your teams at work? March is easily transferable. So start to prioritize it, rinse and repeat, use it often so that it can be the best tool in your tool belt. The key here in March is to repeat the cycle. And eventually, it doesn't matter what order you go in. As long as you're going through the M.A.R.C.H. and honest self-talk, at some point in the day or week or month, you're doing a great job. I just want you to get used to reflecting. I want you to get used to making decisions that are aligned. I want you to understand what committing to a course of action really looks like. I want you to have honest self-talk. I want you to highlight your wins and celebrate them. Reward yourself because you deserve it. So it doesn't matter what order you do this in. It's just convenient and it makes sense that it's March. So for me, it's not about the order. It's just that it is happening. So that's a wrap. I just want to thank you for purchasing the March workbook. I want to encourage you to keep going, never stop. And if you need my assistance, please book an exploratory call and reach out to me for services. See you soon.